Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk a little spoilers about the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, obviously on the CW, you know, the whole Arrowverse situation. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about some spoilers from part 2, the Batwoman episode. So if you've not caught up, do not watch this. Like I said, there will be spoilers and all that. But obviously, more specifically, what I am focusing on is the whole Kevin Conroy situation, the Batman situation. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I think it's kind of an interesting conversation, just because I've seen some people who had very interesting reaction to it. Like, you know, I mean, everyone's entitled to feel how they want to about it. I just think it's a very interesting discussion. I like to kind of, you know, a jumping off point, because as someone who really liked it, I think it's kind of interesting. Like, obviously, you know, kind of breaking it down. Obviously, a lot of people had this, well, not a lot of people, but I saw some people's interesting reactions to, like, they didn't like Kevin Conroy's Batman being what it was, that he was, you know, Earth 99's Batman being this Batman who basically killed all of his villains. At least we saw he killed the Joker, he killed Riddler, he killed potentially, you know, Mr. Freeze, and we know that he killed that Earth's Superman. And obviously, I think for a lot of people, it was kind of bothered them, because it's like, for one, it's like, I think it's just a combination of, for one, it being Kevin Conroy, but also it being Batman in general, which obviously it's like different interpretations. I don't know whether it's because it's like, because it's Kevin Conroy playing this Batman, so it's like, oh my God, this is the animated series Batman, but I mean, he's voiced other Batmans outside of the Batman animated series continuity, like, not unless I'm mistaken, he's the voice in the Arkham games, isn't he? Like the Rocksteady Arkham games. I think he did some of them. I don't think he did all of them. I think the only one he didn't do was Origins, right? Like I said, maybe I'm wrong about that, but regardless. People had this, you know, like I said, they just didn't like the fact is, I think, like, making it so that Batman, like I say, in particular, Kevin Conroy is Batman, kind of like this person who would kill his villains and go that far. To me, I think it's kind of an interesting element. The reason why I enjoyed it is because I like the fact is that it shows how human Batman is, that Batman is a flawed person, that if the scales tip too heavily to one side, Batman could falter. And because, I mean, and that, to me, that's always an interesting element to the whole, like, Batman and Superman dynamic, is because Superman has all these godlike abilities, and that's always a concern of, like, what if Superman one day just went bad? That this world would be kind of screwed. And it's, I mean, and that's kind of a mentality that, you know, Kevin Conroy's Batman had on, you know, on Earth 99. And because I just think, you know, because it kind of reminds me of Ben Affleck's Batman from Batman v Superman. Like, I feel like Kevin Conroy's Batman in Crisis is easily who Ben Affleck's Batman could have been, because that's what I know. A lot of people had an issue because they're like, oh, they didn't like his Ben Affleck's version of it, or more specifically Zack Snyder's. But to me, I liked it because I was like, it's a different take on Batman. It's very different from any version of Batman I'm aware, because Batman never kills. But for him to be willing to kill someone, to me, it's because he's doing it so long, it's, you know, it makes you jaded. When you balance that world, when you balance the light and darkness in you, like I said, sometimes those scales tip in the other way. And even Kevin Conroy's Batman said that line of all it started was like 1. And it's that sad thing of it got easier and easier. He just gave in more into just like, why even bother locking these villains up in Arkham? They just get out, they hurt and kill more people. Forget that. Ultimate solution, just wipe them out, you know. And I thought, you know, and I, like, from a storytelling perspective, I like that. I mean, to be fair, it's like, we're talking about a Batman from a different universe. It's not like this is even like, because even Kate had said it, that this isn't even a Batman from her universe, like from Earth 1. She's like, this isn't a Bruce I know. The Bruce I know had a code. I mean, but that's kind of another thing too. You look at Bruce from Earth 1, he walked away from being Batman because it was just too much. It's probably just like, it's that dilemma of being like, you know, the fact is that you kind of have to walk away because it's just too much for you, because you probably feels like it's just such an uphill battle. And maybe that's something people also have an issue with too. It's just like, in that continuity, Batman walked away. It's like, Batman would never give, you know, like, everyone's got their pushing point, you know, especially considering in this continuity, in the Arrowverse continuity, he was basically doing it by himself, because the way Luke talks about it, it's like, Bruce was all alone on this. Like, obviously he had, like, you know, support from, like, Alfred and his dad Lucius, but he was still at it alone. That because that basically, in my interpretation, I thought was kind of interesting, meant that there was no Robins in this universe, no Batgirl in this universe. Kate's like the first one to join the Bat family, essentially, and I think that's such an interesting element to kind of consider. But obviously, that, you know, like I said, that's Earth 1 stuff. But obviously, it's also meant to show like a parallel for what Kate was going through, because Kate was literally on the verge of being like, you know what? Either I'm gonna let my sister die, like get out of my dad's way so he can kill my sister, just because what what she did to Catherine, what that's done to their family, you know, because she kept, you know, giving her sister leeway, and it led to people getting hurt over and over again. And now that hurt came very close to home, and it hurt, you know, her stepsister Mary so much that that in turn hurt Kate, you know, so she wanted revenge. And, you know, that was the whole point of that storyline, is to make it go, see that, Bruce, as a cautionary tale. Like, you go down this lane, there might not be any coming back from it. Because, hell, even look at Oliver. Oliver's a prime example in his continuity of, like, going down that lane and having a hard time coming back from it. To me, I enjoyed it just being, like, the fact of the matter is, you can't, I wouldn't even say that this is our mainline Batman. Because, like, I mean, I think they've talked about Batman a little bit. There have been winks and nods to Batman on Earth 2. But obviously, they've talked about Batman in the Earth 1 continuity, as well as, like, everything on Earth 38. So, like, those are the only instances of us really knowing any Batman. I guess those will be our more traditional Batmans. But I guess it's just, like I said, the mentality of, like, Kevin Conroy. Maybe it's just Batman in general, but also Kevin Conroy as Batman playing this version of Batman. Like I said, I thought it was interesting, not only because of the parallels that it meant for Kate's story and what that means, how she handles the whole Alice situation going forward is going to be very different because of, you know, and that's what I always love about these crossovers. It's not like they're just pocket things of like, oh, what goes on in the crossovers don't matter. It's like, they do. They play a role in developing these characters going forward into the rest of their seasons in each of their respective shows, you know. So I think that's kind of something, you know, like I said, Kate's going to be carrying over back into Batwoman, you know. So I just like I said, the showing that, you know, Batman can falter. Like, I mean, once again, we're talking about a Batman from a different Earth too. Like, it's a multiverse, so we're dealing with maybe hundreds of different Batmen. So of course, you know, life takes these small little changes, and those changes are enough to shift everything. Like, despite how middle to ground Batman might be, it might take just being on a different Earth, things going down a little bit differently, shifting that. Because, for example, like Kate, obviously on Earth 99, died. And, you know, because she picked up the mantle and it ended up killing her, you know, in the end. You know, that's probably another thing of, like, Bruce losing more and more people to this whole thing. So it's like, no more hands off, you know, I got to handle this by putting all my villains down, you know. And I think hero-wise, I always think that's kind of an interesting parallel, because obviously, like, you know, on the other spectrum of that would be like on Marvel's side of things was the whole Daredevil and Punisher thing. That's why that made that dynamic so good. Daredevil, you know, Matt never put anyone down, but you have Frank Punisher being like, that's the difference between you and me. When you put people down, they get back up. When I put people down, they stay down. And that, this different spectrum of, like, how they handle bad guys, and then just it kind of takes me back to that, you know, when it comes to this whole Batman thing. So like I said, it was just, I'm not trying to falter anyone for feeling the way they did, but it just, to me, it's just an interesting, you know, discussion. In the comments down below, what you felt about it. I'd love to kind of get other perspectives. Did you kind of feel more like me, or you kind of like some other people where it's kind of like, I don't like that you did that to Batman, you know? So I'd be really curious to kind of hear your perspective on that situation, because I think it's kind of a fascinating discussion. I've kind of explained why I feel the way I feel about it. I'd love to get to know how other people felt about it, because I haven't heard too many people talk too much about, like, well, I mean, because obviously it's like, this crisis thing is like, there's a bunch of people who watch it, but obviously it's a whole thing of also, like, it's still kind of almost a niche enough thing that obviously not, like, everyone's gonna have an opinion on it. We're not talking, like, millions and millions and millions of people. It's still going to be like a very, like, niche group of people who watch the crisis events, because if you watch the Arrowverse stuff, you're more inclined to check, you know, the crisis event. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good